Welcome, bad yogis. The language of healing and acknowledgement. One of the most powerful tools I've experienced to recognizing, discovering, and for me, integrating many aspects of self. It's a really important topic from my perspective around this idea of mental health and the exploration of mental health and what that means to each of us. And when we look at our language, there is so much depth to the words that we choose, the habitual nature of our words, where we learned to speak, where we learned our sentence structure, where we learned the subconscious shame and blame that many of us speak with habitually on a daily basis. A very small, easy example is the word should. How often do you notice yourself shoulding all over the place? How often do you should yourself into shame, fear, criticism, guilt? If you simply take that word should and start to notice, I wonder if that word carries value sets with it. I wonder if that word expands and creates our underlying need to self-criticize. I should have done this. I should have done that. I should have done it better. That's all based on value sets. So if we start to slow down our language and start to pay attention, I wonder how I subconsciously and habitually shame, blame, criticize, judge self with my language. Another aspect of this is to look at how often when we're emotionally charged, when we're in conflict, when we're in pain, how often we will say the word I. I am depressed. I am angry. I can't complete this task. I am lost. I am confused. It's really important from my perspective to start to slow that down and start to consider, I wonder if there's other aspects of self that are feeling and emoting differently than the singular I in regards to I am angry, I am depressed, I'm confused, I am conflicted. What if we started to expand our language and start to use language like, a part of me is angry. Another part of me is curious. Another part of me is curious about my anger. Another part of me isn't angry at all. In fact, another part of me is an acceptance as to what's showing up in my life. By using language, a part of me, an aspect of me, and expanding what you're sharing with yourself, it opens up a wider spectrum of understanding about what's going on inside of you, and maybe, in some sense, it might free us from the attachment to a singular story. It might help us connect to many other things that are going on inside of us at any given moment, which can help us create freedom and understanding about the emotional charge or the pain that we're navigating. we can bring curiosity, the curious part of self or the curious aspect of self, into the pain so we can get curious about what's going on. More broadly spoken, rather than being so myopic in our language. The other interesting thing about using aspect of self or a part of me feels is, interestingly, if there are other aspects of self that are having different experiences than the one that you're giving voice to, what do you think it feels like to those other aspects of self to not be acknowledged, to not be heard, to not be seen, to not be felt, to not be emoted? What if I said, when we use the word I, at times, we are denying other aspects of self that are crying out for attention and expression? And what if one of the most powerful ways to integrate, discover, and move forward together is to acknowledge that you have more than one singular feeling or emotion going on at that time? What if using language, an aspect of me, a part of me, helps you to connect to a broader experience as to what is going on emotionally and internally, and helps you to gain a better understanding of self, to maybe move in a different direction, to maybe have a little bit more understanding, compassion, empathy for self, to maybe have less criticism, and the beauty for me to also acknowledge that you have criticism, you have judgment, you have shame, you have blame, you have fear. Those are aspects of self, and they're not all of self. They're aspects. So we get to acknowledge them, give voice to them. At the same time, we get to acknowledge these other parts of self that are there too, which helps us to bring more balance to our experience as human beings, which helps us to reduce the amount of stress and the amount of shame and fear that we feel about our negative emotions, which from my perspective is extremely helpful to our mental health, clarity, understanding, and ability to connect with ourselves as well as other human beings. Consider that today, friends. I'm not saying it's true. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm asking you to consider that you have aspects and parts of self, and by using that language, even if it's in here, can be helpful to your mental health. Take care, friends. Talk to you next time. Talk with you next time.